All right, so for our first artwork today, our first artwork for the Dutch Baroque, we are looking at Frans Hals, and the title of this is The Archers of St. Hadrian. Now, the artist, Frans Hals, brilliant, extremely talented artist, especially with portraiture. And The Archers of St. Hadrian is a beautiful example of his ability to portray multiple figures in a group portrait. Now, I already said that we see an increase in portraiture in the Netherlands during the Baroque period, and group portraits fall in line with the same principles. What we have here is a group of men who are part of a club called, the club is St. Hadrian, and these men performed as, well, as the title says, archers. These men performed as archers during their fight against Spain. Now, they are a civic militia group, so they are not soldiers, they are trained citizens, and they fought for their independence against Spain as a group and as the club, the St. Hadrian Club. What we see is this group has collected themselves here at the, you can see in the background, you see the fence, you see an open gate to the outside, probably connecting to the street in the city. What we're looking at here is the back garden of their clubhouse, their headquarters, and it looks as if they've gathered around this long table for some kind of a meeting, right? Now, you are probably thinking, well, who are these individuals? Are any of them important? These individuals all came together and paid for Frans Hals to paint their portrait. So we have a specific and personal portrait of each member in the group, but together they make up the Archers of St. Hadrian. This group, the club, St. Hadrian, it was a very prestigious club. Now you might be like, but Miss Cortez, they're Protestant. Why do they have a saint, St. Hadrian? Great question. I also asked that question when I was a student. It's a club name. It just carried over. It has this great prestige, this great lineage, this great history. So why would you want to dump that? You don't want to dump that. So they are here at their clubhouse, and it looks like they're calling to order a meeting. You see that over there? This guy's got some kind of a ledger. Maybe he's calling attendance. And if we look around at the different men, they're all in different states of activity or awareness. Some look out at us, some look away. Look at, some people are engaged in conversation. I'm not listening to him, but he's still talking. Look at this guy, maybe he's like, wait, did you just say my name? I'm here. Yeah, I just said your name. I'm here, you're here. So what we get, as I said before, is a group. All the portraits are individualized, but we understand them as a whole. This is not an easy thing to do. Why? Okay, well, let's go. Just to drive home that point of these men are all Dutch burghers. Okay, so we can apply that vocabulary word to these men here. Now, this idea of a group portrait, I said it's not a very easy thing to do. Frans Hals, beautiful at his ability to do this. Why? Well, okay, here, let me move out of the way. We can think of this as a good group portrait. We see everybody's faces, and we see them as a whole, and we see them in their clubhouse garden in the backyard. All right, cool. We also see some flags and some pikes. These are halberds too. We see some weaponry. These elements connect them to, well, their act as militiamen, also their fight for independence, these Dutch flags. We also have everyone wearing these distinctive sashes. Now these sashes are marking their rank within the club. Now I I'm not going to get into the details of each of these individuals, but if we were alive at the time, we would recognize by color and by the angle of their sash or how much of the sash they have, where they fall in line in this ranking. Each of them also has these fantastic and very distinctive ruffs or lace collars, which we'll look at in more detail in a little bit. But it's giving a lot of information. We know each individual, we know them as a group, and we know their ranking within the group. And we know them as fighting for Dutch independence. Now, I say that this is a good example because, well, we've all taken group portraits, and they don't turn out this good. This is what we usually do, right? And I don't know these people, I just took this off of Google, but it's a great example of how we, with our best efforts, try to do a group portrait. So here we have a group of individuals. We want to see everybody's faces, right? So everybody's facing the camera, everybody's looking good. But then we also need to have every face seen. So we get these awkward, all right, people, short people in the front, tall people in the back. Oh, man. Okay, squat down. Nobody stands like this. This is not flattering. This is not good. This is bad. And then there's also the boring. Again, I don't know these guys, but well, they had such good intentions, right? Everybody wants to be seen, so let's stand up on this cement block, and then that way we don't have to have the weird bending down, crouching, but it's so boring. Look at how good Frans Hals is at creating a group portrait when we think of what it could have been. There's not this boring order. Instead, everybody is natural. Everybody is engaged. Nobody's in these awkward kind of squat positions, right? So we have an ability to see everyone and appreciate everyone without being bored or having anybody in awkward positions. Now, I also said about these collars. These, I wish we could get into historical clothing, historical costumes, but during the Baroque period, we often see an emphasis on these heavy laced collars. These types of collars are called ruffs, and it was all the rage for men and women to have these ruffs, not just in the Dutch, not just in the Netherlands, but around Europe. Now, again, think about money, think about resources, and how that relates to fabric. Before machines made fabric, fabric was extremely expensive because of all the time, all the energy, all the resources required. Let's just say we have our linen thread. Well, first we have to gather the material to make the linen thread, and then we have all these threads that we then have to weave together, and then you make these big things that these big sheets of cloth, these big bolts of cloth, and you have to cut them. And then from those cuts, you have to sew them. All of this is handmade. What if you want to dye the fabric, make a different color? Well, that's more expensive. How does this relate to what we're seeing here? Well, these ruffs. These ruffs are made from lace. Now, if you're not familiar with how lace is made, it's a very complicated, mind-bending series of knots. And so lace is an extremely expensive fabric. To make a ruff, you have to have yards and yards and yards and yards of this extremely expensive lace. And you roll it around and around and around to create these layers. To create this distinctive shape, you have to have not only layers of that expensive lace, but if you want to have it kind of stick out, like this guy here, he's got this fantastic little poof, poof, poof. You have to starch it, and you starch it into these stiff collars. Now, some people have a different preference, and so that's what we're seeing here. Some have their ruffs a little bit looser, hanging at their shoulders. Others prefer, instead of layers of lace, to have just a long lace collar on the sides, and then others prefer these kinds of bigger, thicker, more expensive ruffs. I will just tell you that there was a princess of Spain, queen of Spain. Her ruff was so big, long, right? The longer, the more fabric, more expensive. It was so big, so long, so heavy that she had to have this silver disc that rested on her shoulders, and it was kind of like a plate, and it held out her ruff. You might ask, why would you even bother with these stupid ruffs? Okay, status. These are status symbols, because with those ruffs, not only is it expensive, you got the money for it, but also, are you going to be like digging any ditches wearing this ruff? Are you going to be doing like hard manual labor? No. So it's speaking to the status of your position in society, not just the money you have, but your skill set, your occupation. So these men here with these ruffs are being fashionable. They're also individualized, so some prefer some ways or in others. I love this guy's ruff back here. Look at that. But Frans Hals, bringing this back to art, Frans Hals recognized these ruffs as helping us, the viewer, and our eye as we move through this composition. The ruffs act almost like frames that give each individual's face its own space to be seen. And look at the way that these ruffs create these kind of whoop, 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 these curls. What they do is they help lead your eye around the scene. So rather than a boring composition, he's giving you these visual elements to help your eye bounce through. The pikes and flags and halberds also help to focus us. Do you see how? Let me just draw this in. Here's my line. You see how these flags... Oh, Miss Cortez, you're making diagonal lines. I am. And isn't that so much more interesting? Look at these diagonal lines. They help force us back into the composition. They also create a sense of movement. They're falling, they're rising. And then, let's see if I can just play with those adorable ruffs. Look at that. You like my sound effects? This is how I see art sometimes. I see it as sounds. Look at that. It helps to focus on each individual man, but also to move us in this kind of bouncing manner through the composition. Frans Hals, you're brilliant. And he would say, I know it. All right, so with that, we have to move on from Frans Hals, but keep in mind that he is a genius of these types of group portraitures. We're going to look at more Dutch burghers, more portraits, just not by Frans Hals.